Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, your weekly video game news podcast, broadcasting live Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. I'm your host, Lex, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Booj.
So it is Friday, June 1st, and this week we're going to be talking about a bunch of news that happened this week. This new week was like a big thing.
It is.
Yeah, there was like a bunch of the ancillary stories. I just had to cut almost all of them. I kept one of them in, and we might still cut it for time at the end of the episode.
Yes, big news week for games.
Yeah,
with it being E3 right around the corner, everything's leaking and everyone's spilling the beans.
All those beans supreme everywhere. This week we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed. We're going to be talking about Valve canceling a tasteless game that came out. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about Fallout. Fallout announcements. Then we're going to be talking about... I don't remember what that story is. Oh, that's Pokemon. We're going to be talking about Pokemon. And then we're going to be talking about PUBG. Legalese. Then, if we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about a thing that happened over at Microsoft. And let's jump into it with Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed. So, like all Assassin's Creed, I think going back into time immemorial, it's been leaked. Their new game has been leaked. And it's called Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And it's been confirmed by Ubisoft as the next entry of the open-world franchise just hours after an image of the game's name and logo were leaked and spread online. The Assassin's Creed Twitter account posted a short video Thursday evening confirming the game's name and an appearance for it at E3 2018. And the video is the Sparta kick. It's what looks to be a Roman soldier Sparta kicking a Greek soldier off a cliff. And this little video here screams to me Ubisoft being like, fuck, we got leaked again. Put something out there real quick. All right, fuck it. And then just throwing up like a little chunk of someone captured this in the game at some point and just put it on there real quick. It's supposedly going to be set in ancient Greece. This comes after Assassin's Creed, was it called Origins? The last one?
Yep.
Which was in ancient Egypt. And, I at this point, it's like Assassin's Creed, when are we just going to have every time period and every setting ever? Surprisingly, there still hasn't been a samurai game, but I wouldn't imagine that's too far away.
I'm shocked they haven't done feudal Japan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they've, maybe in some of their spin-off things, like Phone Game or something, they might have had some of that, but yeah. It's bizarre to me that they haven't done anything in Asia in all of those Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah. Because I think that's what everyone wants, is one where you play a shogun assassin or something.
Yeah. Or a ninja, you know?
Or a ninja.
A ninja.
Yeah,
the one culture.
Samurai.
Yeah, the one culture where shadowy assassins were like actually a part of their thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it plays like with the Templar are the bad guys in those games, and that totally works if like the samurai working for, the daimyo or whatever are the ancient Templar or whatever. It's like they can do whatever they want. I mean, at this point, who gives a shit about the Assassin's Creed storyline? Just put it somewhere, start playing around, do funky stuff. Nobody cares anymore.
Nobody cares anymore.
I didn't play Origins, but I heard a lot of people liked it. This is kind of cool. I might check it out. Ancient Greece and all that. What do you think?
As long as they're not going back to their yearly release schedule, then it'll probably be fine. So, I don't know. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I find interesting, is because they before Origins came out, they said that they wanted to take some time and rework the franchise, and I think they took like only an extra year and came out with Origins, and this one looks like it's going to be on the yearly schedule, maybe? Who knows? That would be unfortunate, but...
Well, they got leaked, so maybe it wasn't even that they were planning to announce it this soon, but they just feel like they have to. I mean, that could be part of it.
Could be part of it.
I don't know. Interesting. Could be good. Don't really care about assassins in historical times. Also, don't care about ancient Greece.
No?
Sometimes from a mythological perspective, I think it's interesting, but just from a regular old perspective, like, yeah, they had Spartans, and there was nothing else about historical Greece that I find exciting. Like, I understand that it was really important for, like, the foundation of civilization and democracy and theater, but that doesn't make me want to play a video game there.
Fuck all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's kind of true. I did think it was funny. I saw someone that was like, good on Ubisoft for taking an entirely like an entire mythological era that has a foundational importance to humanity and staging it in the context of a really really shitty action movie from the early 2000s. I was like, yep, pretty much that's what Assassin's Creed does with any timeline. It's like, welcome to the American Revolution. You're going to hang out with George Washington. It's so cheesy and stupid. But,
Yikes.
That's what they do.
I forgot about the American Revolution one. Man, what a dark time.
Yeah, that game sucked. Then we got the pirate one, which was all right. And then, Jesus, there's been so many of them. And then there was like the French Revolution one. Then there was like the Industrial Revolution in England, I think. Yeah, been a lot. Been a while.
There was the French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about active shooter games. Let's talk about an article from CNN.
Always a good time when we have a CNN article on the show.
Excellent. So you may have heard earlier this week there was a bit of a kerfuffle about how there is a active shooter video game. I forget exactly what the name of the video game was, but the idea around it was... Oh, it is just called Active Shooter.
It's called Active Shooter, yeah.
And it's the idea behind it was that you're in a school or a public place. There is an active shooter there, and you either play as the shooter trying to kill as many civilians as possible, or you play as law enforcement storming the building and trying to get the shooter. This was an obvious money grab, considering like what's been happening in America and what's big in the news there. So it didn't surprise me at all that someone made this game to cash in on all that hysteria and controversy. And I'm sure they made it with the intention of drumming up controversy. No surprise there. But what's interesting is that after tons of people complained, Steam actually removed the game from the platform.
Color me amazed.
It's not... I mean, that's not something Steam usually does. They usually remove things from their platform, but for random reasons, like a visual novel or something that is a little too sexy, that no one asked them to remove. But here it says that apparently in the CNN article, we learn that Valve had looked into this game because of all of the people talking about it. And that's when they had discovered, let's see, in a statement, Valve spokesperson Doug Lombardi, what a great name, said the game's developer and publisher is a man who has been banned from Steam last fall when he was operating under a different name. Lombardi described the developer as a troll with a history of customer abuse, publishing copywritten material, and user review manipulation. So that also doesn't surprise me, because the kind of person who would make a shooter game that looks like it's cobbled together from Unity assets to cash in on Panic is totally someone who could be described as a troll.
Yes, that is quite the definition of a troll.
It's not a surprise at all that he had a history of doing shady stuff. He had a super Eastern European name, and I don't know if they say it in this article. I don't think they do. But it was like... I wouldn't be able to pronounce it anyway, so it's probably just as well.
Right. I know that they mentioned that it was published by a Russian company called Acid.
Cool.
And developed by Revived Games.
Oof. The 90s called. They want all your names back.
They want all your tood back. This is this is tasteless and bad. And good on Steam's part for saying, get the hell out of here. We don't need none of that shit. It's like that, what was that game that came out like a couple months ago? It was called like Hatred or something.
That was not a couple months. That was like a year ago at least.
Was that like a year ago?
That was a while ago.
It's like that shit though. It's just like, ooh. It strikes me always as a little interesting, because I wonder if they are, like, the people that make these games are simply making them just for shock value, or if they themselves are like edgy shitlords that are like, yeah, I'm gonna make an active shooter game called Active Shooter, where you're an active shooter in a school. Like, are they that kind of people? Like, they can't be like, I don't know. I always wonder about the people that make these things, because you rarely actually hear from them. You just hear that they make these crap games and then they get taken down, or they get bitched at by a bunch of people, and you never really hear about them. So I wonder if this person's actually as much of a shitlord as he would seem from his work. Yeah.
It's, I mean, when Hatred came out, that was a big deal, I think more because of Twitch, as I recall. I mean, it's been a while since I've talked about it, because I feel like that was a while ago. Like, it might have been more than a year ago. It might have been, like, 2 years ago.
It wasn't 2 years ago.
It might have been 2 years ago.
It was, like, last year, I think.
Listen, we have the internet. I'll leave that to you to look that up.
Okay,
but this is,
researcher.
when that came out, I remember it was a big controversy, mostly because of Twitch. And it was banned from streaming or something. I could be wrong about that. This one, I don't actually know if this ended up coming out or if it was announced. I guess it must have come out, because it couldn't have been that difficult to cobble together. But it's, on the one hand, when I first heard about this, right, before I found out about the dev, I just thought, if they just made this a game where school shooting is happening and you play a SWAT team and your deal is to like get in there and save as many people as possible, I would actually be super down for that, because I think it would still be a shameless cash grab to monetize on what's going on in the US right now. But I would be like, oh, okay, the game is about trying to save people, so that's cool. And, it's about saying F you to active shooters.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what Counter-Strike is, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
In rescue missions, you're stopping terrorists invading an office.
Yeah.
Or you're playing the terrorists invading the office. So, yeah, I think that'd be a little better. But things like that need to be handled with tact and responsibility, and not Unity assets that are just flipped to make an active shooter game. Pretty bad.
Got an update on Hatred for me?
Yeah, you're right. It came out in 2015.
Ooh, that's 3 years.
Yeah, I know.
Almost.
For some reason, I felt like this happened recently. I don't know. I guess I'm getting too old to remember when these things happen.
No, I was like, yeah, the podcast was definitely going when it happened, because I remember reporting on it, but my memory is so foggy. I'm like, I don't know. I think that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it totally was. Interestingly, upon launch, Hatred quickly became a bestseller on Steam, and it holds a mostly positive rating on that site.
Well, that's the thing, right? In terms of gameplay, I don't actually think it's supposed to be that bad. Like, it's a top-down shooter where all you do is wander around and, like, kill defenseless people until the cops show up, and then you have to be in a gunfight with them. But in terms of, like, the graphics and everything, it actually looks like someone put thought and care into crafting it, even though they're, like, completely tasteless in having chosen their subject matter. Whereas Active Shooter, like we were saying earlier, just looks like an asset flip. So
totally.
It's... I got no respect for this. I got no respect for it at all.
I remember the thing, and looking at the Hatred Wikipedia, I remember that a lot of the controversy came from the fact that the developers described Hatred as a reaction to a trend of political correctness in video games, and sought to make a game that eschewed politeness, colorfulness, and games as art. Yeah, and because they said that the industry is a, quote, rebellious medium and surface-level entertainment with no insertion of any fake philosophy. So it was supposed to be, it's supposed to be this. They are shitlords. They really were, acting as shitlords. But yeah, I don't know. At least they had a reason instead of these fucking active shooter people who are probably just trying to get a buck.
Yeah, the people who made Hatred at least had an ideology, even though it was a gross one and they were horrible.
Yeah.
The active shooter dude probably just wanted to make money. So that's, oof. It's gone. It's off Steam. Although, and maybe you can check this on Hatred as well, because I remember hearing a thing when I was hearing about the active shooter thing about how Hatred was removed from Steam and then put back on Steam. So people had speculated when Steam took down active shooter that we may see a repeat of that situation where it gets taken down and then as soon as everything dies down, Valve will just let it be put back up. Although that seems less likely in this scenario because it's published by someone who's already been banned from Steam, so they probably are red flagging his content anyway.
Right. Yeah. Can't see anything immediately about the release and taking off and putting back on, but it's a possibility. I remember that game just being really controversial.
All right, let's talk about our next story, all about Dave Bautista.
Yeah, it changed for me too. Why did that happen?
For some reason, GameSpot decided to load things weird. I think it was because it auto-loads the video.
Yeah.
And then once it finishes playing the video, I think it goes to the next article. Mm-hmm. So you literally need to load the page and then pause the video so that it doesn't do stuff on you. I think that's might be what happened. But
anyways.
Fallout. You ever played Fallout? You ever heard of Fallout? Fallout's a video game.
No. Oh, it is. Wow.
Yeah. It's apparently a post-apocalyptic video game where you come out of a Fallout shelter and you're all 50s themed. But you got to fight baddies, mutant baddies.
Mutant baddies? Oh, no.
Those are the worst kind. In a wasteland.
In a wasteland, indeed. Do you want me to talk about this?
No, I can talk about it. So,
okay.
This week we saw... I was just making sure I was pausing the video, so I was sort of...
Oh, okay.
killing time. But this week we had an announcement from Bethesda, current makers of Fallout, because they're not actually the people that made it originally, but current owners and makers of Fallout, as to their new project, Fallout 76, Vault 76. It's 76. A lot of people saw it and they said, Fallout, weren't we on like 3 or 4? Why are we suddenly leaping to 76?
Why did we skip 74 entries into the title?
That's how much more extreme 76 is. But
oh my god!
So they released a little teaser trailer. It's there isn't much to it, but it's pretty much just the camera panning around the inside of a Fallout shelter vault. You see sort of the way these people live, which is something that isn't new to anyone who's ever played a Fallout game. They know what that looks like. And the song Country Road, I believe, is playing in the background.
Yep.
And, I don't know, you see the main character put on a Pip-Boy. Everybody loves those, right? And then there's... Jumpsuit. Yeah, and there's that blue jumpsuit. So good. And you see, I don't know, the interior of this place. It's not there isn't much to look at. There are some hints within it. You see like a little snippet of a recorded like press conference type thing with this man telling everybody else in the vault, you know, we have to reclaim civilization after the fallout dies down, and that's what your job is. So apparently it's a whole thing where Vault 76 is 500 people living down there. And 20 years after the fallout has died down, they go back to the surface to try to reclaim the wilderness. So one of the things you may know from Fallout games, if you have played them, is that in Fallout, you're wandering around this wasteland, but it is not unpopulated. There is either people who didn't get into Fallout shelters prior to the nukes coming down during that war, and they have stayed around, and they're often mutated, or they look like ghouls, and it's terrifying. But because they've stuck around, they have built cities, and there's some civilization there. And you also have the fact that other vaults have opened, and people have come out of them. And,
most of the games take place about 200 years after the war. So, it's been enough time for some types of civilization to emerge and rebuild. The vaults, all the different vaults, were meant for different things, and some of them were supposed to open up earlier, some of them were supposed to open up later. A lot of them had fucking weird social experimentation that they were doing on the people inside. And Vault 76 it was meant to be one that opens up, and the people in that vault were supposed to be the first resettlers of the wasteland and get the ball rolling. So says the lore.
Yes. So and 76 has been referenced in the other games, I believe.
Yeah,
which is how we know that for sure. And it's interesting. It basically implies that this game isn't going to have any civilization in the wilderness at all. There's going to be no settlements, nothing like that. It's just going to be you wandering around fighting mutants and monsters.
Yep.
Which seems just a little less interesting than a regular Fallout game. I need the Brotherhood of Steel in here, all right?
Where's the Enclave? Where's the Institute? That would sound boring, except if you want to move on to our boy Jason Schreier's scoop on this, into what it is supposedly actually going to be, and what it's disappointingly not going to be. Jason Schreier from Kotaku, who gets all the scoops all the time, says that Fallout 76 is an online survival RPG. He spoke to some sources, and I trust him in this, at least, because almost all of his scoops are always right, is that Fallout 76 is an experimental new entry in the long-running post-apocalyptic series. When Bethesda first teased the game on Tuesday morning, fans and pundits speculated that it might be a Fallout 3 remaster or a New Vegas-style spin-off in a new location. But as Kotaku reported that afternoon, it is in fact something completely new and different. And he goes on to say that it's evolved quite a bit over the years. It'll have quests and story like any other game from Bethesda Game Studios, a developer known for meaty RPGs like Skyrim. It will also feature base building, just like in 2015's Fallout 4, and other survival-based and multiplayer mechanics, according to those sources. One source cautioned that the gameplay is rapidly changing, like it does in many online quote-unquote service games. Ugh. But that's the core outline. Yeah, gross, right? At somewhere in point in here, they say that it's heavily influenced by games like Rust and DayZ. And that sucks, in my opinion.
Okay, so that does suck, because Rust and DayZ I find unbearably boring. Mm-hmm. And I really don't want another survival RPG. But if there was a game that was going to be a survival RPG, Fallout is actually a franchise that totally works with.
Right, works within the lore. The main reason I'm so dubious, I'm so leery about this, is Fallout 4, and I'm a huge Fallout fan, by the way, and my fandom comes from the original isometric games made by Interplay and Black Isle. But, you know, I've liked Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and Fallout New Vegas is probably my favorite Fallout game. And that's why I was so disappointed that this wasn't a spin-off handled by some other company. Like, I know that they said they weren't working with Obsidian, but I was hoping like In Exile maybe was working on something. Or
Obsidian's too busy making games with Matt Mercer in them.
Yeah, exactly. They're too busy making good games, unlike Bethesda.
Damn.
Snap. So, yeah, I liked Fallout 4. I didn't like it as much as I should have. I mean, it's one of my favorite franchises set in the capital city of the state I was born in, and all that. But I liked a lot of it, but the city build, the crafting aspects of it, the base building aspects of it were horrible. They were really bad. Like, they're the worst part of that game. And now they're gonna make a whole game ostensibly with that as the core mechanic. That sucks. Like, that can't end well, I don't think. So yeah, I am. Who knows? I mean, yeah, we have not seen it all. This is gonna be the big chunk of their E3, I'm sure. And unless they announce something else, which I don't imagine they would, unless they announce anything big, I should say, like a new Elder Scrolls. I don't think they're going to announce a new Elder Scrolls or something like that. So, I don't know. What's your take on? Yeah, you said you don't really like Rust or those kind of survival games.
Not really.
No?
And to be fair, my problem with Fallout is just the sort of the thematically. It's not that I dislike it, but it's just never something I've been particularly interested in. But let me tell you something that really bothers me about the promotional video and the art, especially in it is very clear in this the image that they use for the top of this article. When you're out in Fallout exploring stuff, and you find little trinkets and doodads, you find the Nuka-Cola men, and you find little toy cars and junk like that. Everything's all rusted and horrible, and I'm like, well, that makes sense because it's been exposed to the elements and it's a wasteland, sure.
Yeah.
But for some reason, in all of this footage of the interior of the vault, people's knickknacks are like old and like rusted and stuff. But
Even though it's only been 20 years.
Yeah, it's been, and the furniture and the wallpaper and everything look like it's been 20 years, but they still look serviceable and fine because people are like cleaning them because people live there.
Right.
So it makes no sense for like all these metal toys to just be covered in rust.
That's a good point. That's a good point I had not thought of.
So that was weird and felt like they did it because that was the aesthetic, even though it didn't necessarily make sense.
That or, well, yeah, either they have an explanation for it, or they didn't. Either that or they just took the assets from Fallout 4 and didn't change them.
Yikes.
Which is a strong possibility because, I mean, I looked at this trailer and I'm like, fuck, it's in the creation engine again. Like, they're using that goddamn engine again. Like, they're really stretching it thin at this point.
Yep.
And that's also incredibly disappointing. But yeah, that is a good point. I didn't think of why everything looks like shit after 20 years.
But the thing that really bothers me is that they're not making another Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, I mean, they have said that they are going to make another Elder Scrolls game. I mean, they'd be dumb to not make Elder Scrolls 6 after the success of Skyrim, and Skyrim is the game that never stops coming out. But I think, it will surprise me if this is the main thing they've been working on. Because Bethesda Game Studios, not Bethesda the publisher, is really known for just sitting on one game, developing it for like 4 years, and coming out. It's only been 3 since Fallout 4 came out. They do mention in one of these posts that they are working also with a company that was they were working on Battle Cry, which was going to be an online game that got canceled. So they're co-developing it with Bethesda Game Studios. But it makes me I find it curious that they would be working on this by itself, and not also working on something else, like an Elder Scrolls 6 or something.
Now, what this could be is it could be a stopgap, because they feel that they need to put out something to keep audiences interested. But what they're really working on is another big title, like an Elder Scrolls or maybe another game. And they realize that in the past several E3s, basically all they've talked about. I mean, they had Wolfenstein 2, but other than that, it was pretty much just like, look at this remaster, look at this remake, we're re-releasing on the Switch, look at this and that and the other thing, but nothing new really. So this might be them saying, let's throw together like a simple survival game that we can put up online, have microtransactions and make a ton of money, but it's not actually like, it wouldn't have as much care put into it as one of our main titles. And get that out while we're working on another bigger project. And I kind of hope that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if it would trend if they follow the trends that they've been doing, they usually come out with a new Elder Scrolls game that features a new engine that they have made, and then the next Fallout game uses that same engine, and then there's a stopgap Fallout game, and then there's another new Elder Scrolls game with a new engine. So it could very well be that they're working on a new engine and a new tool set to make the Elder Scrolls 6, and they want to put this out there while they're working on that. Yeah, that could very well be. Also, I mean, the structure of Bethesda as a studio and as a publisher is changed wildly over the past couple of years. So who knows? I mean, they have the power now to option in a bunch of studios to work on their projects if they want to. They have id, and they have Arcane, and they have the Battle Cry Studios people who they're working on this with. So it'll be interesting to see how their production pipeline changes from here on out, if they can be almost like a rock star and co-opt a bunch of different studios to work on one project. They might be able to push these things out a lot faster.
That would be great, man. That would really be using their increased size to their advantage. So I would love that. And hey, I basically trust Todd Howard. Basically,
yeah.
He's such a pleasant man.
You see that mountain? You can climb it. It just works. Yeah, no, he's an interesting man. And Bethesda's an interesting studio and publisher. The way they do things is not the way a lot of other people do things. And they can get away with a lot of things that a lot of other people can't. So, yeah, well, they're having an E3 press conference, so we'll see. I mean, we know Rage 2 is going to be there. We know that This game's going to be there. Or I guess we don't know this game's going to be there, but it's going to be there.
I thought they said that you'll hear more at E3. Maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. There's so much leaks this week. It might have been might have actually been a quote from something else.
Yeah, but this will be there. And I wonder too if this is going to be a fall release. Like, I wonder if they're going to do the same thing they did with Fallout 4 and be like, it's out in 6 months. You know, like instead of a couple years like other games. That'd be cool, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, they have. It's going to be Rage 2, Fallout 76, and then I don't know what else they're going to be announcing because I can't think of anything else on the slate. So we'll see.
All right.
There will be a surprise.
So let's talk about some fun info we got leaked all over us this week.
Leak all over me, Nintendo. Ah!
Nintendo gave us the deets on Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And let me tell you, last week when we first were talking about these, I made a not-so-bold prediction, and I turned out to be half right. So last week...
What was your prediction?
Yeah, last week when we heard Let's Go, Pokemon Let's Go was the title of it, and sort of the idea that one of them was going to be focused around Pikachu, one of them was going to be focused around Eevee. I had said, like, this has gotta be some sort of companion to Pokemon Go. Like, that's what it feels like. I had also said it was probably a Pokemon Snap-like phone game with augmented reality. It's not that.
No, not that.
And I hadn't thought it would be a Switch thing. That was my bold prediction. But it is a Switch thing. However, it is not a full new entry in the Pokemon RPG series. It is a half entry in the Pokemon RPG series.
Yeah, seems like that.
It's a bit odd. So we learned this week that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are RPGs for the Nintendo Switch, or an RPG for the Nintendo Switch, 2 different versions. And they are meant to sort of get players who might be... their only experience with Pokemon might be through Pokemon Go, and try and get them into the Pokemon RPG mainline deal. Just give them a like watered down hit of that, so that they'll get hooked and then come back for the hard stuff later.
First hit's free.
Yeah, first hit's free. First hit's got Eevee, then it's all Magikarp from there on out.
Yeah, you want that hard Pikachu shit?
But, and it is also important to note that according to much reporting, there will be a mainline Pokemon RPG that's coming out for the Switch, but that is coming out in 2019, back half of 2019. So there were a couple people that initially reacted to this news with a lot of disdain, saying, oh, Nintendo could have made a full-on, like, you know, handheld style Pokemon RPG for the Switch, and instead they're making this. And I'm like, no, it's not instead, it's in addition to they're making this. And I think that's actually a really smart move, because A, it encourages people to buy more Switches, which, I mean, they didn't need to do, but sure. And B, it sort of carries over a lot of those super casuals who really liked Go, but might not play it very much anymore, but still think Pokemon is cool from that experience, and now they're like, oh, well, here's another Pokemon game you guys can get into. This is going to be coming out on November 16th for the Switch, Pokemon Let's Go is, and we found out about a bunch of mechanics in it and features that it has, which sound pretty good, actually. We found that it's basically going to be a successor, or I don't want to say remake, but very similar to the earliest Pokemon Go games from 98.
Pokemon Go games from 98?
Oh, I'm sorry. Pokemon games from 98.
Just the games, yeah.
Yeah.
There was things before Pokemon Go? Oh my god!
There were Pokemon Go games before Pokemon Go.
What has happened? What year is it?
Those were all on BlackBerry, in case you didn't know.
They were on Nokia phones right next to the Snake game.
Yes, definitely. So that was... so it's going to play, and it's going to be in the original, the Kanto region, where the original ones are set. So it's only going to feature the original 151
Yay! First gen for life.
And this is that. Yeah, that also reminded me of what we were talking about last week, where we were like, "Yeah, we only need that 150. That's all you need," and that's what this game is going to give us. Just everything you need and nothing you don't. It's not going to have any of the other features we've come to expect from new Pokemon titles, like all sorts of weird alternate evolutions or Z moves, whatever that is.
Thank God.
Thank God. But it's also not going to have like the breeding mechanics that the newer games have, which on the one hand I understand that like that you can make really good Pokemon that way, but two counterpoints to that. One, it's breeding, so it's gross. And you got to have that Ditto, that stud Ditto in there, and it's just, what kind of life is he having? That's not okay.
Right, yeah. It hits a little too close to reality.
Yeah.
The breeding stuff.
The other thing is, though, that I think it encourages the kind of power gaming that Pokemon doesn't... I mean, it never felt like it should encourage that.
Yeah.
Like, the people who are so obsessed with statting the perfect team, so they do all this crazy stuff with the... what are they called? HMs and
TMs.
Yeah, and different kinds of breeding and like experimenting that way so that they can get the perfect stat Pokemon team of all of the best. And I just feel like that kind of player in a Pokemon game feels weird and out of place to me.
Yeah, unless you're playing competitive Pokemon.
Sure.
Which some people do.
Gotta have those battles against
Gotta have
other
those
people.
competitive battles. Yeah. So this is all interesting. I'm not gonna fucking play it because I'm a 30-year-old man. No. But this is definitely made for us, our group of our generation, because it's like, hey, remember your youth? Remember 1998? Remember Kanto region and 151 Pokemon? Come on, get a Switch, enjoy it again. But I feel like this is kind of because I do have friends that are around my age that are still huge Pokemon fans, and I think for them it's kind of a half measure of what they really want, because they wanted to go back to the Kanto region, the original 151 Pokemon, but they want it to be an actual game, not a Switch, not a Go game. Because at least from the preview stuff, it doesn't look like there's a lot of battling Pokemon in this game.
Okay, so that's the thing. That's how this is different, but also similar to the mainline Pokemon RPGs. It's different in that you don't battle Pokemon in the wild that you find in the tall grass. Instead, you find them in the tall grass and you just throw a Pokeball at them, just like in Pokemon Go. Exactly like that. The difference is that you don't swipe on your Switch, although it would be interesting if they put that functionality in, because they totally could. But
I'm sure there will.
Yeah, but instead you take one half of your, I almost said Wiimote, of your Joy-Con, and you make the throwing motion with that, and then it tells you, oh my gosh, the Joy-Con can tell you how many ice cubes are in a glass. It can definitely tell you if there's a Pokemon in your Pokeball. Oof.
HD Pokeball Rumble.
So good. So that's definitely going to happen. But there is fighting that is turn-based and exactly like the mainline Pokemon RPGs, which is what happens when you fight other trainers. So there is going to be a story that you will play through, and there is going to be Pokebattling. It's just not going to be against a wild Pokemon.
No, that sucks.
No, I'm totally okay with that.
Are you?
I'm completely fine, because as long as I still get to do those turn-based Pokebattles, and the trainer battles were always the battles I found way more interesting than the battles against wild Pokemon anyway.
But how are you gonna grind? There's only so many trainers.
There's only so many trainers. It's true. There have to be ways to replay trainer battles, I guess. And I mean, there's going to be random other people you can battle against, I suppose. Maybe.
This brings into the question: do Pokemon level up in this game?
You know, we assume that they do, just because what we've seen from the battles. Like I said, the trainer battles work exactly like the mainline games. So you'd assume that they would have to gain different abilities and be able to swap out abilities, and the way they would do that is by leveling.
Because the interesting thing is that this game has connectivity with Pokemon Go.
Yes. Okay. So that's the other thing I was going to get to.
Yeah, and I mean, I played Pokemon Go for like 5 seconds. I don't remember if the Pokemon in that game have levels or not.
They do. Yes, they do.
Do they?
Mm-hmm. So the way this game works, and this was big in the trailer, clearly trying to appeal to people who've played Go and are looking to maybe get into a mainline Pokemon game, is this idea that you have Pokemon Go, you can then put it next to your Switch, they will talk to each other, and you can export your Pokemon from Go into Let's Go. Although some of the things I've read about that seem weird to me, because you export them into that game, and then they go to the Pokemon Ranch in that game, not right into your computer bank, and you then have to go catch them. But because catching them is just as easy as in Go, that must be like really easy.
Yeah.
So
Seems
I
like
don't
a needless
understand
complication.
why. Yeah, I don't understand why they even put that barrier in there. Like, just put them right into your computer bank if they're that easy to catch. But
Put them in Bill's PC.
yeah, there you go.
I never knew why you were putting your Pokemon in some guy named Bill's PC. It's very strange to me.
So that was interesting. And apparently, let me see if I can find any other good images to also real quick. So it's the 151, but it also, their Alola forms are included, apparently.
Sure.
So there are just variant skins for all the Pokemon in this game. Whatever. But other interesting stuff this can do is this has co-op mode. So not only, I believe it says you can battle other players with Pokemon Let's Go in, the same way that you would have in handheld games, but because this game apparently only requires one half of the Joy-Con controller for the majority of gameplay, you could just give the other half to someone. They can jump into a game even mid Pokebattle with like a trainer or something and fight with you, which is pretty cool. I think couch co-op is always a fun thing to include in any game, especially a game as cute as something in the Pokemon franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely what Antisocial Carol needs.
Yeah, Antisocial Carol man.
Just got to get on that rooftop and hand that other controller to the friends.
It's true. And the stupidest thing that came out of this.
Oh, you're gonna say this is stupid. Okay.
There is a peripheral that you can buy with this, which is a controller that you can use to play the game. It is a Pokeball, and it's a $45 Pokeball that you can pretend to throw at Pokemon in the game to get Pokemon. But then I guess you can also play the game with it, although that actually seems kind of unclear, because you need buttons and a joystick to play the game.
Or do you?
But
see, when Lex said the dumbest thing, he meant the best part of this entire thing is that you can finally have an operational Pokeball. This is, if I don't care now, but if this came out when I was a kid, I would have been all over this shit. You kidding me? Finally give me an actual Pokeball, because you catch the things and then you can like tap on the Pokeball and it'll be like Pikachu. It'll say shit to you. Come on. That
is an interesting thing, but it also weirds me out, because it's not just that the Pokemon will do that when you're playing the game. As seen in the trailer, you could take the Pokemon with you wherever you go, and when you're not playing Pokemon Go or Pokemon Let's Go, you could take out that Pokeball and like just put it on a table and activate it, and Pikachu will just talk to you from inside it. And I'm just like, oh god, there's a Pikachu in here.
Yeah. Newsflash, Lex, everything about Pokemon's fucking creepy and weird. If you really sit down and think about it for 2 seconds.
Especially the breeding stuff.
Yeah, the breeding stuff. And it's also like, what about dogs? Like, do dogs exist? Are they Pokemon? There's a lot of questions about Pokemon in reality. Nonetheless, yeah, you get a Pokeball. Come on, it's awesome. $40 it's expensive for a piece of plastic, but so are all of Nintendo's peripherals. Yeah, all of this stuff, it'll do well because it's on Switch. I just think that it's an odd choice. Like I said before, all of this seems like Pokemon Go 2, kind of. And it seems like an odd choice, but then again, Pokemon Go did huge gangbuster numbers, so I'm sure that they're more than willing. Game Freak, and actually it doesn't mention that Niantic's not working on this at all, right? This is just Game Freak?
Yeah, Niantic isn't involved.
I mean, I'm sure that they're involved in some of the crossover programming for the games or whatever, but yeah, it's Game Freak doing Game Freak, which is always a little off. and weird. And I'm sure that and you know what the unfortunate thing is that I'm betting that the full mainline version that's going to come out next year, it's going to be just another like normal Pokemon game. There's not going to be anything huge different about it, you know. Like this seems like them trying new things, and then the next one's going to come out. It's going to be all 5,000 Pokemon and breeding and all this weird shit, but with better graphics. You know,
well, that's what's interesting about a lot of the mainline games, and especially the last like 2 or 3. From people who I know who have played them extensively and have played a lot of the Pokemon generations, they have found the last few interesting because they are introducing new mechanics into gameplay. They introduce the full 3D range of movement and 3D graphics, and this it hasn't ever been anything very dramatic, but it's just like little by little the franchise is evolving. Oh, so I'm kind of curious to see what if they add in a little thing here or there to tweak for the Switch version, and I kind of assume. But yeah, that being said, it won't be. I doubt it'll be a huge departure from the other mainline RPGs because this is, and they're gonna want to be able to cater to hardcore fans who don't want those changes when the mainline one comes out back half of 2019. So
and that game's gonna sell like hotcakes.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm sure. But I'm actually really excited for Pokemon Let's Go because, like you, or I think this is what you were saying last time, I played Pokemon back in the day and haven't really played it since. Like,
right.
I played most recently. I played like Fire Red.
Yeah.
In like 2007.
Right, yeah, about a decade ago.
Yeah, and I loved it.
I've touched on them. I've touched like the newer ones like for small spans of time, but I've not gotten really into any of them.
But yeah, and I liked it, and I'm like, I should get back into this franchise, especially if there's a mainline one coming for the Switch. But I felt very intimidated by the mainline one because, again, I don't know how to use Ditto as a stud. I haven't done that. I don't know how to do any of that bullshit. So this makes me go like, oh, I could play this and ease myself back into the genre.
Right.
Which, yeah, and also I played Pokemon Go the summer that it came out and had fun with it. And I have a bunch of the Pokemon that I would like to have out of the 150 in that. Like I got my Haunter. It's really all you need is a good Haunter.
You like that? You like Haunter?
He's got a great monster design.
It does. It's like. All the 3 ghosts do.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Ghastly is okay. He's just he's a floating ball. Gengar's trash. Get Gengar.
Gengar is a hunter that let himself go.
Yes.
I always found it funny in the original one. That's just there's the 3 ghost Pokemon, and that's it. That's all you need. You just need 3 ghosts.
You only do. No, that's fine. But like, I had that. I had the I don't remember his name. The dude, the psychic guy who has the big nose.
Oh, Alakazam? No, Hypno.
Hypno, yeah.
Is it Hypno? Yeah.
Maybe, probably.
He has an evolved version that I can't remember the name of.
And I think I have an Abra, because Abra's the cutest. Get Abra and never evolve him.
No, you have to evolve him.
No, don't evolve him.
So strong. Alakazam's so strong.
No, because Abra's the cutest. Now, if you can catch 2 Abras, you evolve that second Abra, because you want to have that Alakazam, but you can't evolve. No, Abra's too cute. You can't make him not look like Abra.
All right.
Come on.
I see your point. My favorite Pokemon, of just because of the weird like fan theory, is Cubone, in that he's wearing the skull of his mother.
Oh, I've heard that. Yes.
And it's an Alakazam. Like he's an ungrown. What are they called? What's the big normal type Pokemon? Like carrots on something. I can't remember. But yeah, it's like the skull of that, and that's like such a depressing and creepy story. I'm like, that's pretty cool. They actually thought of that. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm on Bulbapedia right now. So Drowsy, it evolves into Hypno.
Oh.
And Drowsy is the weird like anteater looking thing that has like a muddy butt. Like his bottom half is all black.
Yeah, he does. So wait, what does Hypno look like?
Hypno is like thinner, and it has like a coif around its neck, and it has the little ring with that he holds.
Both good, both great psychic type. Ooh, so good.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
It's great. Get him in there. Also, that monkey with the boxing gloves, loved him. Mankey.
Oh, Mankey. Was it Mankey? Well, then there was. Are you thinking of there's Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan?
No, I'm not thinking of them.
And then there was Machop and Machoke and Machamp.
No, I'm not thinking of that guy.
And yeah, Mankey was. I don't think he had boxing gloves. He was just like a monkey furball thing.
Oh, he bare knuckled it. Ooh,
he bare knuckled.
So hardcore. Anyway, we need to get back to the news because we're running out of time. Yeah. Reminiscing about the original 151.
Oh, the days. Oh, back in the days.
So let's talk about PUBG.
PUBG. So, PUBG, Plunkbat, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, is filing a lawsuit against Fortnite, and the writers of Forbes find it utterly absurd and silly.
That was why I picked this article, because the title was fantastic.
Yeah, Eric Kane be editorializing like mad. PUBG Corporation is suing Epic Games in Korea. Very important to note that it's not in America, it's in Korea. They're suing Epic Games in Korea in order to protect their copyright. The company contends that Epic's Fortnite Battle Royale infringes upon the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds copyrighted content. That's according to a new report from the Korea Times. I'm surprised it's not the Korean Times, but whatever. Apparently, the lawsuit was filed months ago, but only became public knowledge this weekend. And then he editorializes a little bit about why he's scratching his head. He can't figure out why they're doing this. And he goes on to discuss that he doesn't think PUBG has the grounds to sue Fortnite because you can't lay copyright claim on a genre or a game mode. He makes the observation that if this was the case, every tabletop RPG after Dungeons and Dragons would have been sued into oblivion. Which, I don't know.
Fun side note about that. That is what TSR tried to do.
Yeah, that's how I was going to say. TSR was the fucking banhammer happy for an entire decade until we got the Open 20 license. So, yeah, PUBG is trying to sue Fortnite. I guess over the game mode. Yeah, I don't think they'll win. I looked a little bit into this and I couldn't find the exact parts of the lawsuit that they're having. I'm guessing that there's something else in this lawsuit because as much as I don't think Bluehole or PUBG Corporation would be as stupid to send its cadre of lawyers out against another huge company unless they had some kind of grounds.
Well, especially because the risks for them are so great. Because if Epic is like, oh, you're causing legal trouble for us, we're going to make it really hard for you to use our engine for your game.
Right. That's the biggest point is that, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds uses the Unreal Engine, which Epic Games owns. And I don't know, I mean, I've never bought a copy of the Unreal Engine. I don't know if there's somewhere in the legalese that says, if we want to, we can pull the plug on your use of our engine at any time. It might be. That would make sense. So, yeah, I think that this Forbes article, I actually don't like it very much because it kind of it boils down the PUBG Corporation into this conniving company that doesn't know what it's doing, which I think the opposite is very much true. And like I said, I don't think that Brendan Green he's not the CEO of the company, but I don't think that PUBG Corp would do this unless they had some grounds to stand on. It would seem unlikely.
I actually think that there's a different reason for this, that it means that PUBG Corp is smart, but it doesn't mean they have grounds to stand on in this lawsuit. And it is that apparently Fortnite is not currently operational in Korea. And PUBG does not want them on, their home turf. So the idea behind this lawsuit is if they can embroil them in it, they can delay Fortnite's premiering in Korea. And
that makes
can
sense.
Sort of build up their more infrastructure there and try and make it so that they won't be overtaken in that area as easily when Fortnite does show up. And I think that's probably their strategy, but this is still an extremely risky move because you have the huge potential of this blowing up in your face with your engine, as we were talking about. So a lot of people have seen this as sour grapes from PUBG, which there might be an element of that. I could totally see it. The story we're going to talk about next kind of further exemplifies why there might be an element of that. But it's really important to remember that PUBG still makes so much money.
They make an ass ton of money. Yeah.
And now that's
Absolute ass.
Fortnite just makes 3 ass tons of money.
Right. They make 3 asses worths of money. Yeah. And I mean, it is also, I guess, I don't know, like, I did say, like, Brendan Green, the guy that he is Player Unknown. I've watched like countless interviews with him, and he's said a lot of times, he's like, I don't care how well other Battle Royale games do, and he seems pretty genuine about it. So the fact that, I don't know, like, and this is the thing, I don't know how much control he has in that company, how much it's, you know, him saying do this, do that, or how much there is like a COO or a CEO overarching him trying to, you know, do maneuvers and pull punches and stuff like that. But yeah, I find it unlikely that they would be like, oh, we're only making 1 ass ton of money, well, they're making 3 ass tons. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems kind of like that wouldn't be the case. Mm-hmm. And I think that here's the deal, Lex. I think that people very easily like to anthropomorphize companies into like evil walking monoliths that do things because they're angry at the world. And I usually think that it's way more gray than that black and white kind of characterization. And I think that's the case in this legal case. I don't think it's, you know, probably one-sided, but there is, like you said, the sour grapes argument is bolstered by the fact that Fortnite is cutting PUBG's player base by a lot.
By a lot. So we found out from also from Forbes that in 6 months, Fortnite Battle Royale has cut PUBG's PC player base in half. So, yeah, in January, we had 3.2 million concurrent players for PUBG. It was a big time. We actually reported on that quite a bit because it was so crazy.
Yeah.
And now they are looking at around 1.5 million, and it doesn't seem like people are playing Battle Royale games any less. They're just all playing Fortnite. So PUBG has now Fortnite hasn't released a lot of these numbers as to like how well they're doing, but let's see, they have 3.4 million concurrents several months ago.
Yeah.
So they're probably even higher than that now, and it does seem more or less like players who are unhappy with PUBG are just jumping, or maybe not even unhappy with it, but players are leaving PUBG to join Fortnite for a myriad of reasons, but the audience does seem to be migrating there. And I totally understand why PUBG would be upset about that, since they were first, and then Fortnite basically just copied their game mode.
Yep. Yeah, they absolutely did. And, you know, and once again, PUBG wasn't even first. There have been other Battle Royale modes, blah, 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 but they were the first big one. They're the first one that everyone latched onto and played in the millions and millions, to the order of millions of players. And they go on to say, you know, well, and because this is a Forbes article, they have to write it like they're explaining it to 50-year-olds because they are. So they say, so what's going on? Why is the PUBG player count falling rapidly while Fortnite continues to climb at an even greater pace? A lot of things are going on here. And some of them are, very astute points. Why is Fortnite doing so much better? Well, Fortnite is free. Fortnite's monetization model doesn't involve loot boxes. Very
good in this day and age.
Yes, very much so. And Fortnite is updated constantly, and that's kind of when they say the next couple ones where they're like, Fortnite is updated constantly, PUBG is plagued with more technical issues, and PUBG is plagued with more cheaters. Really what you can boil that down to is Epic is a well-funded, incredibly well-established company that has the resources and the talent to handle post-release support, and PUBG Core is a new company that is still rapidly expanding and doesn't have the talent that they need yet to support their game.
Totally.
That's really what it's saying there. And then I think, so that's one thing. And then the last one, PUBG is available on less platforms. That's just simple math. If you're on less platforms, you're just not going to be, you're not going to have as many people playing. And I think that's really the truth. I think a couple things they do leave out here. Fortnite has a much more inviting style for kids. It's a cartoonish style. It's like they mentioned, it's not real guns. It's cartoonish guns, cartoonish characters, more colorful, and it has building. It has like crafting stuff.
Yeah.
And as we saw with Fallout 76, I think I don't personally like a lot of crafting in games, but crafting sells big ever since Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always been a thing. Kids like Legos. Kids like building things. And a lot of adults do too. And Fortnite has that. So, yeah, I think that's a huge portion of why Fortnite is doing well, though it's not mentioned here because, it's Forbes. What are you going to get? What do you hope for?
What do you hope for? What can you do, Forbes?
Yeah. Come on, Forbes.
All right, so in our last 2 seconds, show's over. We're going to talk about games that just came out and games that are about to come out. So, let's see here. We had this past week all those Persona games. Oh, wait, that was last week. I don't know. What did we have this week?
What came out? Persona dancing, and dancing.
Yeah, dancing, and more dancing. Sega Genesis Classics came out on the 29th. Wow, exciting.
Yay.
Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. That's actually kind of nice.
I've heard that there's actually a lot of cool shit in there.
Yeah, on the 30th, a game called Pokemon Quest for the Nintendo Switch came out.
We didn't mention that during the Pokemon thing, so that was another part of the presentation that they gave, is that there's also a phone game called Pokemon Quest, and it looks weird. It's in a cube. It's on a cube world where you move the screen around, and on the cubes, it's strange. It doesn't look very Pokemon-y.
I totally missed that. That's super weird.
Yeah, check it out. It's strange. It's free for Android and iPhone, I think.
Liar Princess and the Blind Prince.
Why not?
For the Switch, the PS4, and the Vita. The Vita.
Yeah. Vita lives.
None of these games really stick out to me.
Alone. Got BlazBlue.
Well, that's what I was about to say. So next week on the 5th, we've got a couple of more notable things, such as Vampire coming out.
Yes, I'm excited about that one, made by Don't Nod.
That I'm actually really, really interested to see that. Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn, which I wanna like it. I just wanna.
Why?
Side note about Shaq Fu. Shaq Fu, apparently an awful game. I have never played it, but I have watched Let's Plays of it, of the original Genesis version. And man, the pixel art in that game is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, that game looks really, really good.
It just plays like garbage.
Plays like garbage, and it's like a sort of boring fighter with like a really silly story. But the fact that the story is really silly actually works really well in the game's favor because you're Shaq. So when I saw Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn didn't have the exact same graphics as Shaq Fu, I was disappointed. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I want A Legend Reborn to be good. I just want it to be good. It's not going to be good. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be awful and boring and bad. It's going to range from either as terrible as original Shaq Fu to, this is okay, I guess, but I'm never going to play it more than once. Right. But I just want it to be more than that. And it's coming out for Switch, so I'll probably buy it and be disappointed. I think that's what's going to happen.
Probably.
And let's see, Elder Scrolls Online Somerset is coming out for the Xbox and the PS4. Also Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. I actually am not familiar with that. But they make a lot of different Warhammer games. I can't keep track of all of them.
They do. It seems like Games Workshop is very lenient with their licensing for video games. They're just like, yeah, you make whatever you want. The fucking lore is wacky as it is, so go ahead. Warhammer 40k lore, Jesus, it's the most crazy shit.
Don't do the thing, or demons will kill you. What thing, you ask? Anything.
Any damn thing. And don't disappoint the Eternal Emperor. All flesh for the Eternal Emperor.
Yep. So that's about it for us tonight for Don't Copy That Floppy. We have been your weekly video game news podcast, broadcasting live, 7 to 8 p.m., twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. If you want to check us out on social media, we're on Twitter at DCTF Podcast, and we're on Facebook just by searching Don't Copy That Floppy Podcast. If you want to check out our show archives, you can either go to our amazing benefactor website, chipbit.net, check those out there, or you can go over to iTunes, just again by searching Don't Copy That Floppy, and find all those episodes there. If you're over there, feel free to give a rating and review. It would be super helpful, and we would totes appreciate it. And finally, if you have a whole lot of money, you don't know what to do with it, you can go on over to our Patreon page and give us some money so that we can do things such as get me to PAX East again.
Let's get him to PAX.
Get him to PAX, everybody. So, that's been it for us. Chris, what do people have to remember?
Don't copy that floppy.